So let's prepare to read Alice Walker's Everyday Use for our second read. So I am going to Schoology, clicking on the three bars for courses. I'm going to a course. I just picked one. You should pick the one for which you take your English class. I clicked on the unit plan folder, now the standard skills folder, and September 8th through 11th. You can find all of these details in the slides for Tuesday. I'm going to click on the Everyday Use PDF. I'm going to save it to files and put it in my English folder. Excuse me. I'm double clicking the home button to go to my files. These are the steps you would take if you have already downloaded the document. Simply go to your files, click on your English folder, and open the document. Now the screen tells you that as we read everyday use, we will highlight characterization as we see characterization. We're going to listen to the audio, but we're looking for characterization for Mama, Dee, and Maggie. We need to remember both still for indirect characterization and remember to listen for direct characterization because Mama, as our narrator, gives us a lot of information about herself and our other two characters. For this particular teacher video, I will not play the entire part of everyday use because YouTube would never load it because of copyright issues. I'm going to play just enough for you to get an understanding of how to highlight for characterization. So hopefully we'll be able to do the first page. So let's talk about markup tools before we begin. So I'm using my Apple Pencil, or you can use your finger. I'm going to click on the markup tools here. Well, my Apple Pencil needed to be on. Click on the markup tools. I'm choosing the highlighter option. That's the second one from the left. I am going to the multicolored circle to pick my colors. I'm going to use a yellow for Mama. I'll use this coral for Maggie and maybe green for Dee or something like that. So choose your color based on your character or however you decide to choose your color. You might want to take a sticky note or a piece of paper to write down which color represents which character, or you can use your finger and write it on your document. So I'm going to write D in green because I know that's my green color. And I'm going to change it to coral. And I'm going to write Maggie. And I'm hitting it again and changing it. I think I'm going to do blue for Mama instead. And I'm writing Mama. So that will stay there to let me know those are my colors. If you want your writing to be darker, you can simply click on any of these tools well, not the eraser, but any of these tools at the bottom to write darker, but the highlighter worked for me. So I'm going to now play Everyday Use by Alice Walker.
And a minute later, Everyday Use for Your Grandmama by Alice Walker. I will wait for her in the yard that Maggie and I made so clean and wavy yesterday afternoon. A yard like this is more comfortable than most people know. It is not just a yard. It is like an extended living room. When the hard clay is swept clean as a floor and the fine sand around the edges lined with tiny, irregular grooves, anyone can come and sit and look up into the elm tree and wait for the breezes that never come inside the house.
So I'm pausing here and I'm just going to write with my pencil so you guys can keep this in your mind still. So this very first paragraph tells us something about Mama. So I need to know Mama's color. Mama is blue. So Mama says that she and Maggie are gonna wait in the yard that she made so clean. But then she goes on, I think I need that a little bit darker. So I'm gonna just move this tool to make it just a little bit darker. And I'm highlighting. Okay. Mama made the yard so clean. And she goes on to explain that a yard like this is more comfortable than most people would know. And she spends some time explaining why a yard like that is comfortable. All of that is gonna be actions by mama, right? So these are things that mama is doing, and so this tells us something about her. So let's think about our prior knowledge. What do we know about people who like a clean space? What kind of person likes a tidy area versus a person who likes a messy area? Those are things that we ask ourselves to come up with some analysis or idea of who mama is. So we can tell that mama is a clean person and that mama is very particular about her environment or about her space and what it looks like, okay? And then mama explains the yard as being an extended living room. And so here, let's think about what we know about a living room. So in most houses, the living room is where you sit to have family time, or if you have guests over, those people will sit in your living room. You know, they don't often go to your bedroom, but they'll sit in your common area, right? So a living room is a common area. And so if the yard is an extension of the living room, what does that tell us about mama? How is that characterization? So what do we know about people who have folks over their house? So those people are inviting, they're friendly, they're kind. So I hope you guys understand how we draw those connections, not simply based on what we read, but also based on what we already know. So remember, we're making inferences, and we make an inference by taking what we already know and we add that to what we read, and the conclusion that we come up with is the inference, okay? So let's continue listening.
Maggie will be nervous until after her sister goes. She will stand hopelessly in corners, homely and ashamed of the burn scars down her arms and legs, eyeing her sister with a mixture of envy and awe. She thinks her sister had held life always in the palm of one hand, that no is a word the world never learned to say to her.
So let's pause here. So this part of the audio or the story talks about Maggie. And remember that this is all direct characterization, so we don't have to do a lot of inferences. We don't have to make a lot of inferences here, but we can come to some conclusions about who Maggie is. So Mama already told us, and I'm going to use a different color just so you guys can see me underline these words. Mama already told us that Maggie is what? Nervous. I know I said underlining, but circling seems to work better. And she also told us that Maggie will stand hopelessly in corners, standing how? Homely. And so that's a word that we might need to know, homely. And she'd be ashamed of her burn scars. And that Maggie would eye her sister with envy and awe. So we could, knowing the meaning of those words, we know that Maggie is kind of impressed or infatuated with her sister, and that she's also kind of jealous. So I can write with my pencil, you can write with your finger, or you can simply write on a piece of paper. I'm going to fast forward a little bit just because I don't want YouTube to get me for copyright issues.
Life, and I am a large, big-boned woman with rough, man-working hands. In the winter, I wear flannel nightgowns to bed and overalls during the day. I can kill and clean a hog as mercilessly as a man. My fat keeps me hot in zero weather.
So we'll pause here. So I skipped over the part with Mama talking about the Johnny Carson show because none of those things actually happened. Those were all Mama's musings or her daydreamings. And so when she comes back to real life, Mama is explaining to us who she is as a character. So she's telling us how she looks. And so I highlighted those things in my blue Mama color. So what we did here, you will continue to do for the rest of the story, and you will see that when we get to page 2 and 3 and keep going, eventually Dee will show up, and Mama will start to tell us some things about Dee. Now, in terms of your markups, if you just click done, your markups will remain. So when I click on my document, everything I wrote, everything I highlighted, underlined, and circled is still in the document. So you'll continue reading the rest of Alice Walker's Everyday Use for Read 2. Remember, you are highlighting for all three characters, Dee, Maggie, and Mama.